Today we will be talking everything about 0x's Swap API. We recently got the Swap API integrated on the QuickNode Marketplace, and we have Jessica with us from 0x's developer relations team. She leads developer relations there. And yeah, we will be talking about the Swap API. We will be talking about what's possible, what are the different kinds of methods which you can call or which you can run using the Swap API. And we will also see a really quick demo. So over to you, Jessica. If you want to introduce yourself, give a little bit introduction about yourself, what you do at 0x, how developer relations work at 0x, and just basically greet our audience. Stage is
Yeah,
yours.
sounds good. All right. Well, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to partner with the QuickNode team. I feel like it's a combination of titans in the space, so really excited to be on the marketplace. As Sahil said, I lead developer relations at 0x. I've been here just about 4 years now, I think it is. Time flies. So on our team, the developer relations is really focused on giving our developers the best experience. So both understanding what it is that they're building, how is it that they're using our APIs, making sure that the feedback that they have about that gets back to our product engineer team, and then also building out the resources so that you'll see during this demo. So from the docs to the example codes to like video tutorials, making sure that they have that encompassing experience as they're building. So it's kind of in a nutshell what I get to do at 0x.
That's amazing. So Jessica, I'm just going to give a little bit introduction of what this integration is all about. So for people who are already using QuickNode, you can basically just go to your QuickNode endpoint for whatever chain you want to use the add-on for. So I think right now we support 10 plus chains for 0x Swap API. So you can use Arbitrum, Base, Ethereum, Scroll, OP, Unichain, Monad, etc., etc. So basically, what you need to do is you just have to go to your QuickNode endpoint page and then go to any chain on which you want to enable the add-on on and go to add-ons page, look for the 0x's Swap API, and then click explore and then install. So I already have it installed on one of my RPCs. So that is why you can see that it's already here. But if it's not installed on your endpoint, you can just go to this page or scroll down to these available add-ons, look for the 0x Swap API, click explore on that, and then just click install. And that will be it. You will be able to call certain methods on your API, and you will be able to use the 0x Swipe API right from your QuickNode endpoint. So do you want to give a little bit of brief on why people should be building on top of 0x's Swap API and how this is obviously better than all the other APIs out there or all the other code or Swap APIs out there? So it will be good for our audience to understand like why they should be building on top of this API or using this API.
So I'd say kind of at a high level for those who aren't familiar with 0x, let me just kind of give a quick example of what it is that we empower. So we empower the swapping capability, so be able to find the best price for any trade that you're making. So I'm sure if you've entered the Web3 space, you're going to be interacting with tokens. And at some point, you need to either onboard to some token, like maybe get some ETH or get some USDC, and you need to interact and swap between different tokens. So it's like a very fundamental concept when working on Web3. And so like, how do you find that token to swap? So that's like kind of the initial question. But then also, if as you start looking more into the space, you realize there's just so many chains, and then also like explosion of tokens. For those who've been in the space even a few years, you probably have noticed just like the literal explosion of tokens. With new chains that have really low transaction fees coming out. There's like billions of tokens produced like by the month, by the year. So I think that is the initial kind of thesis of things, right? There's just an explosion of tokens. How do you find these tokens to begin with? So what we do is we help be able to like map this expansion of tokens in this space, and be able to help you just easily navigate. Like, I need to swap this to this. You don't need to go find all those different routes. We do that for you. So think of it like Google Flights. Like if you want to get from New York to let's say Puerto Rico, like there's potentially hundreds of different routes to go through. So rather than you having to manually go through all those different routes, we do the hard work, aggregate those different routes for you, find the best pricing, look at how gas plays into it, and then give you the options, and then surface the best price to you. So high level is we do the aggregation and surface the best price. So for us, we have right now, I think around almost 20 chains. And people might ask, like, oh, there's so many different chains in the space. Like, why aren't you on all of them? So I have to say that routing itself is a very, very hard problem. So teams that do it well, are really intentional about it. And also because there are so many chains, often some of them are just like a boom and bust within a month or a day even. So like really making sure that the chains that we are supporting are chains that have longevity. So the projects that are working with us, and so these projects are, say, like wallets, portfolio managers, these applications that have swaps within them, they are building on chains that have longevity. So it's not like a chain that just builds and then is gone. So at this point, about 20 different chains. I think last I checked, we've done, like, these numbers are not that fresh, but that's somewhere around like 60 million plus transactions. I think definitely more than that by now, over like 150 plus billion in volume just going through our APIs. And then we have a number of big trading applications using us, from Coinbase Wallet, so with their DEX integration into their centralized exchange, to Robinhood Wallet, Phantom, MetaMask. So like a number of projects that you might use day to day for swapping, like we are powering them in the back end. So that's the fun part of it.
Yeah, that's incredible. So basically, whoever is swapping directly via or inside the Phantom wallet or MetaMask wallet, they are essentially swapping via the 0x Swap API.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a cool place to be.
Yeah. So Jessica, thanks for first of all explaining that. And since you folks integrate so many chains, and it obviously must aggregate a lot of data or aggregate requests through a lot of DEXs and AMMs out there. So I'm pretty sure there must be very complex architecture under this. So do you want to explain a little bit on how this works under the hood, or what the basic or very high level architecture looks like under the hood? I'm sure you don't want to share the secret sauce or anything, but just the high level overview of how the API is set up under the hood. That'll be very interesting for our audience, I guess.
Okay, awesome. So I'm just taking a look here we have a introduction to 0x page. I thought some of the diagrams here could be very helpful. So again, here's the basic swap components. But if we look at what does swapping look like? So to get from token A, let me just zoom in a bit here. So to go from token A on one side to token B on the other, it could look like a series of very complicated routes. Meaning, think of the flight analogy. So you might be doing a lot of different layovers, what we call multi-hopping and multiplexing. So meaning we could go through a lot of different pools to help you find that best liquidity. Because it might not just be, if you want to go from, say, ETH to Pol, you might not just be using Uniswap. It might be going through a number of different pools. And let me even quickly share. So Matcha, if I may share right now, is our in-house DEX aggregator. And what it does here that I think is really, that I want to showcase here is it shows you that route live. So if you want to make this humongous trade, say you're like a baller in WETH here, you can actually see this route. So we give this to you live here, where say you want to go from WETH to USDC. So you might be going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different routes or 8 different pools of liquidity. So these are dexes plus private market makers that most people don't have access to, that we can put into this route for you, and then you can see like what percentage of that flow is going through what we call multiplex. Multiplex meaning like putting a lot of different routes together, and then hopping through different intermediate tokens. So this is again the secret sauce that's happening.
Yeah, this is actually very cool, and obviously this is in real time. So if you change the token, it will change. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
This is very much intriguing for DeFi because you can actually see the routes it's going through. It's very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for people who like to nerd out about this stuff, it's quite fun. Going back, yes. So I mentioned some of this, and then in terms of how our stack works. So I kind of like to think of it in 3 big layers. So for projects coming in, so say you're building an app and you want to use the API. So bucket up here in the front end apps, building on 0x. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a number of teams already, so you'll be in good company amongst them. And then you tap into our suite of APIs. So we have our Swap API, our gasless API, so allow for gasless approval, gasless transaction, our trading analytics. So this is like really robust analytics on what are the trades that are going through your application. We found that teams building swaps like to have this information, rather than like some teams are small, they don't have a whole data team to be able to pull that up for them. And I think it's really helpful to understand who your users are, what sort of tokens are they trading, what chains are they on. Maybe you can then target those communities better. So we have that, and then we have a number of other upcoming APIs that I'm also super excited about. So expanding into the SVM space. So we're going to be having a Solana Swap API. So look forward to that, and then cross-chain as well. So really like rounding out that ecosystem of being able to hop from any token to any token as the ecosystem continues to grow. And then all that sits on top of our like proprietary contracts. These are all open source, so you can definitely take a look through them. So one of our main contracts is called the settler contract. So what it does is it settles the trades, and it's open source, very well reviewed, and that's pretty much our stack. And we'll probably touch a little bit more about this contract, or the other associated contracts.
So I had 2 questions over here, Jessica, if you don't mind. The first one is about the cross-chain swap and SVM swaps or Solana swaps. So just wanted to know that will these features, whenever they are launched in future, be coming to the Zero Access Swap API on the QuickNode Marketplace as well?
Yeah, we are in talks already, and definitely want to have that there. So make it again all encompassing, easy access for you all.
That's amazing. And the second question obviously is around the contracts. So you mentioned the settler layer, which has a bunch of contracts, and you said that they are open source and well reviewed. So I'm guessing they are audited thoroughly by smart contract auditors.
That is correct. We have this bounty page for people who enjoy bounty hunting, but our contracts are audited. We have gone through 4 audits so far, so a number of pretty prestigious firms. And this bounty is available if anyone is interested to take a look through, see if they can catch any bugs.
That's nice. I mean, I can see big names like Trail of Bits, Open Zeppelin. So people should rest assured that they're in good hands.
Touch on this lightly. Again, there's 2 different sides to it. There's sides to a trade, right? There's the liquidity that you're looking for that we talked about with those DEX, professional market makers. And then takers is just a term that we use for this person that's looking for the trade. So it might be yourself, it might be a smart contract. And then, so that's pretty much high level how 0x works. I don't want to tire out this point too much, but I highly recommend taking a look through this document, Introduction to 0x, for anyone interested to learn more.
It was a really good explanation around what 0x is and how its API works and what the different layers are beneath the hood. So do you think we should get into demo now?
Oh yeah, let's do it. So what we want to take a look at here, so these examples are all in our public repo. If you just look up 0x examples, GitHub, or you can go from the docs, you can find these examples here. And we
People
have
can also find the, sorry,
okay.
I was just going to say that people can also find the link. It's highlighted and on screen.
Yeah, thank you. Great. So yeah, if you want to follow along as well, you can take a look through here. We also have we have an example here specifically focused on using the QuickNode endpoints. So I'll just quickly walk through what this example does, so you guys have context. Okay, so I'm going to share it from this README view, so it's a bit easier to read here. Okay, so this example is what we'll call a headless example. So there's no front end to it, but there are examples in the repo if you want to see how to incorporate it into a Next.js app. But this is just a straight command line example just to quickly show you how the endpoints work. So high level, using 0x Swap API is as easy as four simple steps. So the first step would be calling our price endpoint. So we'll be using swap/allowance holder/price. And allowance holder is just a contract for us to give token approvals to allow a settler to make the swap for us. And then, so first we'll fetch an indicative price. Secondly, if we need to send a token allowance on the allowance holder contract, like I just mentioned, we'll do that step there. And then thirdly, we'll be getting a firm quote. So this is when, so the difference between indicative price and firm quote is when the taker is ready to make that swap. So we do this so to make sure to tell the market makers like, hey, this is the user's ready to go ahead, because often the market makers need to hold the assets in order for that swap to happen. So we want to make sure we want to make sure we give them the appropriate heads up. So that's why there's this difference here. And then, yeah, lastly is just making the swap on chain. And this is just using a VM send transaction. And we'll go through exactly how to do that. And you'll see like using the QuickNode URL, which has that swap allowance price endpoint kind of coupled in there already. So yeah, feel free to just stop for questions if I'm just...
So I just wanted to ask you, Jessica, that I have seen that there are two ways to go for the 0x Swap API. The one is doing everything via allowance holder, which I think is via smart contract, allowance holder smart contract, and other is permit to. So just wanted to understand what are the major differences between these two and when a user should be using either of those.
Yeah, that's a great question. Because you'll probably see also in the QuickNode Marketplace, you'll see a allowance holder version of price and quote, and then a permit to version. So yeah, to set the stage high level, typically allowance holder is generally recommended for most use cases. So allowance holder is a contract that 0x has created for this purpose, like specifically for holding allowances. Permit to is a more, we say like advanced use case. It was created by Uniswap, so it's think of it universal way to set token allowances. So sometimes there are, if you expect like maybe your user wants to set token allowances on several different applications, if all those different applications are using permit to, then it's universally valid for this contract. Some differences, some minor differences between those two contracts. So allowance holder on our side is really tailored for gas efficiency. So because we created it for this purpose of swapping, it's set up for like really low execution and approval and execution costs, so even lower than permit to. So that's one thing to consider if it's of importance to you. So permit to requires 2 signatures, so one at the approval and then at the transaction. Allowance holder simplifies things, so it's just a single, like the single approval signature. So that's like another, like one less friction point for your user. So for people from our V1 product, that's the same flow. So this might come into play for, like there are teams that use maybe multiple different liquidity providers. And so they want like a universal, like a similar paradigm amongst all of them. So like maybe all of them are using this single signature flow. So just to make it easier, so this is that option there. Also for teams that are like using say like smart contract wallets, multi-sig wallets, what we call like more advanced wallets, I think allowance holder is a much easier flow because again it has that single signature flow. So again, it's allowance holder typically recommended. Permit to, we have some resources in the documentation that goes into detail about, if you want to consider using permit to, here's how to go about it. But most of the examples I'll be showing, the example I'll be showing is allowance holder. So good question.
Got it. So is this the case that the allowance holder has the wallets approval for tokens already, like the amount of approvals already, and it does not require extra signature for token approvals, and it just requires a signature for sending transactions? I'm just guessing it from the name of the contract. Like, does it hold record of a wallet's token approvals?
Yeah. Yes, that is correct. So it will hold that, like the memory of that token approval. So if you go and like try to swap USDC again, so like say I've approved 0x to make that swap, and I didn't revoke that approval, yes, it will still hold it. That's correct. How about we just jump into the demo?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. All right. So then I think going through the example. So first, we need to set up the environment file. So we have this example here. Three things needed are wallet's private key. So typically, this is just for local example builds. As you're building more production level code, you'll be going about it in more advanced fashions. But this is here, and then the QuickNode HTTP transport URL. So this is our way of talking to the blockchain. So you'll get this from your dashboard, and then the 0x add-on. So I think it says here in the README, the add-on code is, I think it was like 11, add-on 1117.
Yeah, 1117. Yes.
Nice.
And while talking about private keys, I think Jessica was trying to say that this is just a demo. So that is why we have our private key and API keys in our environment variable. But if you were using it in production, you will be using you should be using a more robust method to, store your private keys and API keys. And even if you are creating your own example and using environment variables files, always make sure to add them to git ignore whenever you are pushing it to GitHub or any Git enabled platform. Yeah, and just one more thing. This will be a 4-step flow in this particular demo. The 2 steps, getting the quotes and getting the prices from the API and sending the transaction, both of them will be happening via your QuickNode endpoint. And that's another benefit of using the Swap API from the QuickNode endpoint itself, so that you do not have to manage multiple APIs. But obviously, you get 0x Swap APIs all capability in this particular QuickNode URL itself. You do not have to manage both of them. That's just another thing I wanted to mention or highlight.
So I've set up the environmental file here, and then I'm running the terminal down here. All right, so I'll go through and install the program, and then just go ahead and run it. So bun install, and then I'm going to run bun index.ts. All right, so, all right. So, oh man, okay. Inevitably, there's an error, as with every live demo. So we need to figure out together what's happening. All right, I have figured it out. I just added one too many backslash.
Oh, backslash. Okay, got it.
Just tested it, and it was so fast that we got a final transaction in the time that I was troubleshooting. But I'll also run it again for the viewers here. So just go ahead and run, and then we see a bunch of printout on screen. So I'll walk through what exactly we're seeing here. So go to the top here. So first off, what this code does is we're swapping for a very tiny amount of USDC for WETH, just because we're doing a demo. And then when we call that price endpoint, we get this response back. So there's this big block of information that might be useful when you're building your project. But Some important things to call out here are, the tokens that we're swapping. So we'll see here token, contract, the amount in the unit value of the cell token, and then some token metadata. And so, yeah, that's information you could parse out if you want. Next up is setting the token approval. In my case, my wallet already approves USDC, so it just skipped over that logic. Otherwise, it would show you its allowance holder contract to move USDC on my behalf. Next step, third step here is fetching the quote. So again, it's very similar. We'll see this quote response. This allowance target should be the allowance holder contract. And then in fetching the quote here, we'll see like, oh, it's going to be happening at this block. We see a lot of similar information by token. Were there any issues when trying to make this quote? No issues here. And then also see the route. So in this case, since it was a very, very tiny amount, it's just going through the Uniswap v2 pool. So you can see all the routes that it's going through within the response. And then also what's different between price and quote is quote will give you back this giant block of call data, which is all the important information that's needed to pass to the contract in order to properly execute that swap. So you'll see this huge block in the quote response.
And for people who are new with the Swap APIs or DeFi development, what Jessica was showing as the call data for as the response for the quote method is basically the data which you sent with the transaction. What essentially happens is whenever you call the quote method, it basically gives you a transaction body which you can execute on the smart contract. In this case, it was allowance holder smart contract.
And then very lastly at the bottom is this transaction hash. So once we submit that quote, this is the confirmation that swap went through. And then if all goes as planned, we'll take a look at this URL here for the transaction. So I have the base scan ready to share. So what we see here is that transaction that we just settled. So again, we have this USDC here, and then we're swapping it for WETH. It's going through the allowance holder contract. And yeah, it's live. That transaction just went through. And I highly recommend everyone checking out that example, putting in a little bit of USDC, and you can make your own swap live through 0x. It's quite satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, you can make your own swap apps. Not just you can swap, but you can also make your own swap apps. You can even use your 0x's other APIs like Gasless API to integrate into your DeFi application, where you can enable your users to make gasless approvals, etc.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I recommend checking out the documentation on that. Yeah, it's really, I think, a really cool concept, especially for teams that are trying to onboard new users, but even existing users. I know personally it can be frustrating. Like you're trying to make a swap and you just can't, you literally, because you don't have ETH in this wallet. And so it just becomes a headache. So, small things like that are very helpful.
Thank you so much for the demo, Jessica. It was really nice. And for people who are watching, you can see the link on the screen. You will find not just the demo you saw on screen or Jessica demoing, but a lot of other demos or a lot of other sample apps as well, which uses different 0x's APIs, not just Swap APIs. And I think that'll be it. Thank you so much, Jessica, for doing this and showing people how to actually use the API and sharing a little bit more information about the API, how it works, and basically how things work under the hood as well, and what are the new things coming from the 0x project. So I think that'll be it. I'm going to end the stream now. Thank you so much, Jessica, again.
All right. Thank you all. Thanks for watching.